Good evening, everypony, and welcome to Commentary as Magic Stream on today, Sunday, January 31st, 2021. I'm, as always, Grandpaws.
Big cheese.
Arcat and
Ivory Starlight.
And I just like the stock.
I'm just here for the memes.
You're in the right place. Today, we have a stream topic that has been literal years in the making.
Both literally and metaphorically here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that when we first thought of this idea for a stream topic, there weren't nearly enough band cards, so we had to be sure that for the next 3 or 4 sets, there was plenty of stuff that was broken enough to be banned later that we could print it so that we could pad out the stream content.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
That is, yes, definitely exactly what didn't happen. But the creation date on the script for this one is September 2017.
Phew. I think AJ was still illegal back then.
A lot of things were still in the meta back then.
Early days.
In the dark times, in the before time.
I was about to say, we got a spreadsheet somewhere. I can tell you what was legal back then.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. Anyway, a question that gets brought up relatively frequently when people encounter cards that are banned in one format or another is, but I really like this card. Can't we just errata it, or can't you just reprint it with a fix to it? And philosophy answer of no aside, that is kind of an interesting thought experiment. What would be required in order to get some of the most infamous banned cards that this game has seen back into their respective formats?
Well, but the best part about this is the philosophical answer of no is really grounded in some other concerns here. Well, recently the answer's been, well, maybe. But that's all part of why we think it's going to be interesting to take a look at this topic.
Yep. So, do we want to just kick it off right at the beginning?
Yeah, let's start with the most egregious offender of them all.
Hey, I resent this.
Worst card.
Truth. Irredeemable.
Alright, so let's look at our lineup of offenders here. First and foremost, banned, what is this? January 30th, 2015. Rainbow Shine Cloud Wrangler. She who did nothing wrong. She hasn't actually done anything wrong, but she would cramp design space rather severely by requiring that anything that exhausts produce at most 1 action token worth of value. She doesn't know why she lives on the moon now, but she did pop a Philly's balloon once, and I think by the equestrian exchange rate, that's 1,000 years dungeon.
Seems about right. That would be very anti-friendship.
So, in her original form here, the one obvious thing that you could do to her is add some kind of cost to her ability, make her exhaust herself, for example. But there's another card in the Premier meta even, Rainbow Dash Weather Leader, which, although it would cost 3, Rainbow Sign just basically turns into a worse version of that for combo purposes, which I suppose isn't terrible.
I mean, if you really need to ready characters or ready cards, yeah?
Yeah. And recently, Rainbow Shine has actually been released on parole as a blue-orange friend in Leaders and Legends that exhausts when moved to ready a different friend, but is also stubborn. So from a purely functional perspective, this is more or less the same thing as long as you weren't trying to get her to violate her parole.
Right. There's convoluted combos you can end up doing with her. I think the best thing we figured out was Storm King, Herd of Adoring Fans, something that makes her swift, and like another AT generator at the other problem.
So basically she's already been redeemed.
Well, she's on parole, at least.
Ara would challenge. It's just not the same.
Well,
He wants this version.
look, she does at least get to see the light of day again. So
We get to see her every other Sunday on our stream.
Or anytime you look at any of our accounts.
True. Fair. All right. Next one.
this is an old favorite. Who wants to go with this one?
Ooh. All right, sure. Fluttershy Guidance Counselor. I remember before this game had even released, when the first set was publicly revealed, and there was a spreadsheet, because Ponyhead didn't exist yet, that had the cost and rec and power and abilities of all these cards. And I saw this one immediately and was like, yes, I will be running 3 of this card. And I think many other people did too. Fluttershy Guidance Counselor is unfortunately guilty of being just utterly lousy to play against. No one who has ever had to play against her will argue this point and say, yes, the game was made more fun by the presence of Guidance Counselor.
Except
But I don't want my opponent to do anything. I want them to sit there and do nothing the whole game.
But they do. And unfortunately, this is, for you in this case, this is a game that requires at least 2 people to play.
All right, but even if you were one of the people running around with, what was it, Royal Guidance? Or one of the variants of that, like sooner or later you ran into the mirror match. And that was lousy.
Yeah, that was rough.
That was
Who found 2 of them first? You win.
Now, Fluttershy knows exactly what she did. She's very sorry about it, and she understands why she's been banished to the dungeon inside of the other dungeon on the moon, whatever. That being said, how would you fix this? Well, there's a few approaches. You could go so far as to make the card unique, and in most circumstances, that would exclude the ability to completely lock your opponent out of action tokens for the rest of the game. But even then, just having one of them early on means you're gaining twice the action tokens your opponent is. Compare this to another 3-cost AT mucking friend, Spoons, right?
Good old plaid stripes.
Yeah. In that case, yes, your cards that are going to be cheaper and more affordable are going to cost you a little bit extra, but you can still bank up the AT. And if you choose not to bank the AT because you're fearing an uneven ground or something like that, you can still dig for answers and eventually, hopefully, get enough AT to do something about it. Really, what you'd need to do in order to fix this card would be to restrict the timing of the ability to only affect action tokens gained outside of the action step. This would kind of fundamentally change how the card would be used. Previously, it was just, I'm going to jam this in any deck that can afford to run a yellow fixer and slam it on turn 2. Now, or in this theoretical future where she can only affect AT gained outside of the action step, it's a counter to other AT generating cards like Cover to Cover,
or
Starlight. Yeah, exactly.
Or people doing crazy things during their just before their draw step with messing around with same-day delivery. Outside the action step, but still during the ready phase.
Yeah. Next card.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Globetrotter Sightseer. So this one was in... I think this was only in one pace, but... Yeah.
Yes. The original one pace.
So Globetrotter combined with a bunch of showdowns is effectively repeatable card draw. He definitely knows what he did, and he's very happy about it, clearly.
Got to see the world.
Yeah, he saw sights. Now he's seeing sights outside of the world. You could probably introduce this one pretty easily if he just exhausted to spend the card, but that might not be the best playable version of him. There's a lot of removal out there now, though, so he might actually be fine as is. Maybe. What do you guys think? Do you think he would be fine as is?
Well, so I think as we've got written down here, like if he even tries something, as he's seeing the sights, he's going to eat a pumpkin and or have a sudden and excessive quantity of Trixie to deal with.
Eventually, you're going to have to find another euphemism other than eat a pumpkin, since Food Fight hasn't been legal for several sets.
In Harmony, it's still perfectly legal. It's just not going to get run when you've got sudden and excessive quantities of Trixie to donate.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
Or I guess at this point, maybe get attacked by biting pineapples?
Sure. I guess there's really two aspects to it. Like Ivory says, it's not just the fact that there is a lot more removal now than there was back then. It's the fact that removal and disruption has gotten much faster. Remember, immediates didn't exist in the entirety of Premier Block. The closest thing you had to it were reaction cards, and those had very specific circumstances under which you could activate them.
Yep.
Right, the key one, what was it? Soup Incident was the silver bullet everyone thought was going to kill combo.
Yeah.
Except no one was running yellow at that time.
I ran yellow at the time.
One person ran yellow at that time.
I mean, there was yellow in some of the decks that were doing combo things at that time, but that doesn't count.
Sure. Because they were running trampled, because they were mean.
Right.
Yeah, as is, Globetrotter could almost certainly be reintroduced to Harmony and nothing would really end up happening, because if you've been playing this game for any length of time since 2015, you've probably noticed one pace isn't fast enough anymore. Not by a long shot.
It also provides way too many windows for your opponent to do things, which is just not acceptable.
Oh yeah. And so you might ask, well, why isn't he introduced? And the simplest, shortest answer to that question is, if Globetrotter was made legal again in the meta, what value or what purpose would it actually serve?
Would anyone
None.
bother running it?
Someone would at least try.
I don't even know if that's true.
This is kind of a bad card.
Well, at this point it is.
Okay. One case I can see where Globetrotter might see play in Harmony if he was there is some bizarro pink farm list, and that's it.
Maybe. I don't know. He's definitely one of the better candidates for maybe even false. Well, I don't think it's going to be false imprisonment, but I think we could argue fairly successfully that he's done his time.
Oh yeah.
Right,
How about a card that definitely hasn't done enough time yet?
That's a
Mailboxes?
bit of an understatement.
Yeah, go ahead, Cheese.
Do you actually want to know what this card does?
I mean, tell me about this card's... Reading this card makes me have the face that Spike has on this card. Just
You're blowing.
Just,
Actually, I kind of... Was there ever a... Yeah, there was not a promo of that because it got banned too fast.
There is a foil of it, I believe.
Yes, there's a...
Yeah,
foil.
there's a foil.
But I think it's the same art?
It's the same art.
Yeah. Such a great card to have a foil. But yeah. So this card just deals with counters and lets you draw cards. But with the orange Spike main, which like to put or put counters on things. It was allowed you to basically draw 2 cards for every card you played, which is kind of ridiculous. And it was part of a deck that I don't think ever. It got banned before we even had a tournament. So it was exactly what it would have done, and
Not that it ever got the chance.
yeah, it never really got the chance to. I did demonstrate it at locals. I didn't just randomly pull it out in a tournament. I was like, hey, I want to see something stupid. But and all it would really take to fix it is exhausting. Even then, though, it still can be really strong. And even now, this card would be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, the
Even
main
with
concern-
immediate speed resource removal and stuff.
right.
Yeah.
There's very little of that even. Like if you don't have the card that you need to take this out the second it hits the field, you may have a problem.
This card has another aspect to it that really didn't ever matter in most cases, but was kind of a sign of a design philosophy flaw, I think, that existed in Premier Block, which is it kind of felt like they just threw darts at a dartboard to determine what certain cards' power was going to be.
Why is this a 5?
Right. If we were to print a card that generated this much value in core now, I would find it hard to believe you would see this at any higher than a 3.
I mean, correct. Its power is kind of who cares, but
Right.
compared to it's so ridiculous its power is kind of irrelevant.
Yes.
It is still kind of a relic of the old times, the way something slipped through.
Right.
Yep.
But we're better now.
Or
Are we
we'd like-
though?
I mean, we'll find out. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Well, let's check out our next card then, shall we?
All right, talk to us about the lady.
All right. So Twilight Sparkle, Element of Magic. This is a card that I think really marked the beginning of the end for combo. It turns out that a lot of events cost only 1 action token. Note that she doesn't have a floor, and it turns out that you get really, really huge value when you get free events, especially if some of those events draw more events. How about that? It turns out that Twilight Sparkle, Element of Magic, is actually a criminal mastermind. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she did it again after framing Globetrotter for the first time, and she would have gotten away with it again if not for you meddling kids.
I blame you. I mean, it was kind of your fault.
It was kind of our fault, yeah. So, reintroducing her is potentially not that hard, because if you look at this, there's an obvious fix here. To a minimum of 1. Put a floor on the reduction of her discount.
Sure.
Would that be entirely sufficient to reintroduce her? Maybe. There is some evidence that her other ability might be problematic. And really, do you just let the Joker out of jail?
So I have a very different opinion on this that I've tried to argue with Aura for the last 2 weeks to get him to change this script, and he has still refused to do so.
No, you don't let the Joker out of jail.
That's fine, but her second ability is not dangerous because we have that exact same thing.
Right. Did I use the word dangerous there? I think it's concerning.
Also, we have
it's not-
Somnambula's Blindfold.
Which
Put that card back. You're not looking at it.
I mean, that's funny. I think the bit that we forget about here, though, is Twilight was able to generate insane amount of action token value because if you could get her out it didn't really matter how many AT you had remaining because your events were effectively free. You ran a bunch of one-cost events, including one-cost events that generated action tokens by themselves. If there is a floor and Twilight can't drop something below 1, then you still need to have a pretty significant number of action tokens saved up if you're going to try to do anything within that single turn. And this is a 6-cost friend.
Yep.
That is way too expensive.
Oh, I'm sure you could find a way to cheat this out for like 2.
I mean, you can reanimate it, or you can do something with Student 6, or you can do something with Paradox Pony, but, like, do you not have anything better you can do for that amount of AT?
Maybe? I mean, at the end of the day, no, and I don't think it actually matters too much, because this is probably another one of those cards that even if it was reintroduced, I don't think anyone would play this in a highly competitive manner.
Sure.
It's just too expensive.
It really is.
And it's just too fragile. Like, I will refer you to the art on Belly Flop.
Yeah.
She's going to be sitting there, holding her whatever kind of drink that is, and then Trixie.
And then Trixie. Would you call that Trixie inconvenient?
I would. I would call it highly inconvenient.
Fair enough. It is kind of interesting how this one card has shaped design philosophy moving forward. It is almost unheard of you will ever see event discounts that go below 1.
That aren't just
a one shot.
Yeah, like your next event kind of cards.
Right.
Yeah. Like I think what is it, like Rainbow Shine?
Rainbow Shine and the new event from New Dawn.
Yeah, the blue-purple thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, but that's part of that, and an event is inherently a one-shot.
Right. Well, under most circumstances, we'll get to that in a moment.
You want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take the next one.
I believe. Yeah, I'll take the next one.
Yeah.
I hated this card so much.
There
That was fun.
There is nothing that is redeeming about this card's design. This is just...
But I want cards from my discard pile.
They slammed it in a theme deck. This was... Okay, so bulk biceps. See, here's the thing. There are multiple ways that this card could be adjusted now. Not even adjusted to get back into the meta, but just adjusted in general to match more modern design philosophy. Like, for example, the fact that this card can recur itself is probably one of the most egregious things about it.
That seems problematic on its own.
Yeah. You have removal on a friend, and that friend can also bring itself back into your hand. Ergo, even if all you have is an enormous home limit, you still effectively have a guaranteed piece of removal, restrictionless removal, mind you, once per turn, every turn. Well, every turn cycle. Turns out that's much worse, though, when you have Interdimensional Portal, because then it just turns out that every 2 AT you spend is dismiss a friend at immediate speed.
The balance gun wants to show up and just be like bang, bang, bang.
Bang, bang, bang. So Bulk did, obviously, massive, massive damage when he showed up. When EO first came out, you were basically running a 4-color deck if you were playing Control. You were running Ambassador of Friendship, you were running Bulk Biceps, and you were running Daring Do Poster to keep up Troublemaker walls and gain lots of AT. It was stupid.
Yes, the wall.
Now, that being said, Bulk's just excited. He's just trying to give people massages. He doesn't really know what happened, but he's probably thinking something's a little off here. So, an approach to fix this card might be something like, well, let's start with fundamentals. When you play this card, okay, so that fixes the interdimensional portal problem. When this card is put into your discard pile from play, you may put another card from your discard pile into your hand. So now it has to be retired. It can't be banished or dismissed or napcaked or put back into your hand or anything along those lines. And it can't bring back itself.
I mean, it can be dismissed. That enters your discard pile from play.
Sorry, did I say dismissed?
Uh-huh.
I did not mean dismissed.
Yeah, but you can't discard it. Banishing does, dodges this whole thing, etc.
Right. Part of the issue here, though, is that these are just two types of mechanics that really... It's hard to justify these being on the same card.
They're great tastes, and together they taste amazing. So
For you.
Maybe don't do that?
They're very salty for your opponent.
It's not my fault they've got that weird gene that makes cilantro taste like soap.
Sure. Also, fun fact, when we were writing some of the fixed abilities here, Aura may have not been paying attention to what he wrote and had this card as when this card is put into your discard pile, you may return another card from your discard pile to your hand.
Which accidentally turns him up to 11.
So, if you were wondering about lines of text you're not going to see printed on a card in the near future, there's one of them for you.
What was your comment about that? It was call you, get your credit card, fly down there, and slap you?
Yes, something like that.
Yes.
If I ever print that text on a card.
So we should maybe not do that.
Maybe not. All right, Ivory, take the next one.
I feel targeted. I need answers. Is a problem.
Do you?
Yes, I do actually. During their main phase, players may dismiss one of their friends here to gain one. Seems harmless enough until you see decks that generate a lot of tokens, or are running breezies, or like to steal your opponent's friends. And then you start to see a pretty obvious problem. Pun intended.
But I'm Tish.
So one of the easy ways you might make this work in a better way is adding non-token friend. You could also do once per turn. However, that would probably just make it not see play. So,
all right, there is another facet to this. Anything that is fundamentally problem-based requires you to find the problem in the first place. Back in the day, there were approaching enough different ways to go through your problem deck that this started getting viable. But banning all that stuff at this point, I think, is just a non-starter, because didn't we literally just print a card that specifically does that?
yes.
Except your opponent can't use it.
Right, so now it means that you can combo even easier, and your opponent can't even do anything.
Right. No, it kind of does this. It gives them the card back into their deck. They might find it again later. But yeah, it does let you get rid of one of your friends to gain 1 AT.
Or, one of their friends that I've stolen.
Shh, don't ruin my tech. Pound cake and pumpkin cake and steal your friends and play Thorax and splash purple for that one card. It's the greatest thing ever. I love it.
Oh my god, ew.
That sounds awful.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, amazing, quote unquote.
It is so good.
I mean, when it works, that's going to be really annoying.
I mean, actually, for Thorax, it's just better to use Shoe Shine. But for spell for that, yeah. Jeez, stop writing down ideas.
Quit.
Quit it.
No.
I suppose it's only fitting that she's be the one to talk about this next card here. I don't know who else I'd trust to do it, so.
Penny
It
Lane.
is worth noting with I Need Answers, though, that this maybe has been redeemed.
No.
I
No.
disagree completely.
100% irredeemable as is now because we printed Discord.
Well,
Yeah.
sure, but what is Amusement Factory, though?
Amusement
Nowhere
Factory is
near
lim-
as dangerous as this.
Yeah, Amusement Factory is limited to once per turn. I'm going to play Orange Pink using Discord and play a Featherbangs and discard a bunch of cards to make a bunch of Earth Ponies and then dismiss them all to gain more action. What? No. Irredeemable.
This was easy to find back then. It's even easier to find now. This needs to stay gone.
Yeah. All right, so I guess it's like,
Twilight is once again impossible to save.
yeah. All right.
This one just needs
Okay.
to be reintroduced again as a.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, this
Hush.
card's fine as is. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No.
So Penny Lane lets you trade your friends for action tokens.
Are you
That's-
saying that Penny Lane literally is selling your friends into slavery?
That's
Yes.
like the most
That's
unpony
exactly
thing
what
ever.
she does. And
There was an episode about that.
this is great, especially when you didn't actually have to pay for your friends
But how would you do that?
with Dr. Hooves, or later with
Tall Tale.
Tall Tale, who was like 8 cost but reduced for each Earth Pony you had in play.
Yeah.
It was great. I pay nothing. I pay 3. Where'd this 5 AT come from? Who knows?
Stonks.
Yeah, and like, she was actually great for her original intended purpose, which is like, I have this terrible friend at home. Well, maybe not terrible. Whatever. I have this friend at home. It's kind of useless there. I want a friend up at a problem. Sure, I'll like pay 1 AT to get 2 power up. You know, it's a nice little aggro-y thing. It's like, no, we want all the AT. So adding unique here would have helped a bit because she wasn't actually that dangerous back when you could only have 3 of her. But then we got 6 of her, and then we got 9. And when you're running around with 9 of a card in your deck via copy effects, it's a little dangerous.
You could even have 12 now if you splash for purple to play Trixie.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
S- What's the quote here?
Oh, what is Adam's quote?
When you want 9 copies of a card, there might be something wrong, something like that.
Yeah.
A card is too good if you want 9 copies of it in your deck, I think was the quote.
Yeah. And so
Well, she's
even
she's
with
yeah. So Penny is a basically just a victim of identity theft, and she's really angry that no one believes her. I think she's
Exactly.
actually a changeling herself, but
So I think that even with unique, she would still see play in some combo decks. Because even with 3, there's still things you can do. And there's also ways to remove unique by, for example, frightening her. She's no longer unique, but still has printed text.
Plus, she's still on Enter's Play right now, so like you can
Yeah.
still just do portal things, and you can still do like Discord things, and yeah,
Well, I mean, Portal's banned. But
it's not banned in Harmony. It was banned in Core, wasn't it? It's legal in Harmony.
is it?
still
Yeah.
still legal in Harmony.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in Harmony.
It was banned in an old version of Core where
Yeah.
EO was still legal.
Where you did the
Yeah.
thing.
Burb.
Yes, you in particular, apparently, only did
I-
that.
I mean, it was.
I feel attacked.
It was also Aura.
Ugh.
It was
But yeah,
Lawless.
that's Penny.
Okay, Aura.
Oh boy. All right. So here's another card that strikes terror into the hearts.
a
Tantabus
shame
Night Terror.
It's so pretty.
It is pretty. Chaos. All players lose their action tokens. It literally doesn't matter what the rest of the card says. So this just ate all the AT. Turn after turn
Mine.
after turn after
Mine.
turn after turn after
Well, not mine, really. Nobody's, but
nobody's. Right. So this Tantabus did exactly what it wanted to. It knew exactly what it was doing, and it got away with it. And yeah, this would be pretty lousy to deal with, even if you went to the point of adding banish this card to the end of the chaos text. Like, that might be enough to bring it in line, but still, ew, that's not great to play against or with, because, ugh.
I mean, if you remove the chaos text, it's fine. Or if you change the chaos text to what we did with what's his face? Grogar?
What's his face? Grogar?
Grogar.
Yeah. Grogar
Gogurt?
is a more limited form of this, I guess.
Prism Light says Pinky Sense plus Time Loop. Here's the cool thing about Time Loop. You don't actually need the Pinky Sense. It puts a card on top for you.
Mm-hmm.
That
was
was
literally
part of the problem.
That was basically the core of the Tantabuse combo. The only interesting thing beyond that was just getting to flip this early on during your opponent's turn and just being like, nope. So
Oh, hold on. I just had a terrible thought. Hold on. Gotta go to Ponyhead real fast.
uh-oh.
Making sure. Okay, yeah, so there we go. I mean, it was bad enough to do this before when you'd set it up a turn in advance and then have Gilda interplay and your opponent basically have a single priority window and that would be it. But then you're vulnerable to like having your top deck be disrupted. Nah. We're just gonna do Selena and we're gonna have a Tempest Shadows airship.
I'm
I
already
heard
10,000.
Selena, I like this.
I'm already 10,000% done with this. This thing's irredeemable.
It's a shame. It really is one of the prettiest troublemakers, though.
Yep.
It's really,
I have
really
a
nice.
printing plate of it.
Oh, I wanted that.
I
printing
remember when
plate.
I bought that, and you were like, "Why are you getting that?"
You're like, don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Wasn't that at BronyCon?
Yes. No. Yes. It was at the BronyCon that we played it.
Immediately preceded the Gen Con where Tantabuse got unveiled.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was right before you.
Yeah. Next card.
Yes.
Let's talk about something that's a little bit lighthearted.
I wish we had the video ready.
I can go get it.
Go get the video.
No.
It's still one of the most watched videos on our channel for good reason. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I'll go get a link to it. But anyway.
All right. Vapor Trail, Wind Beneath Your Wings. Despite Aura's claim to the contrary that Vapor Trail was in fact a good pony, I doubt it. She had good intentions, but she was a bad pony. The problem was that Vapor Trail was able to bring any character into a face-off when she became involved. And Showdowns, as printed back in Premier Block, wanted you to choose a very low-power character on your side and a very high-power character on the opponent's side. Well, Vapor Trail has one power, so unless your opponent's board is nothing but Twilight Sparkle, Noted Speaker, and Paper Twilight, you're probably going to be able to challenge stuff. And then get your main involved, who is going to let you put any events you flip into your hand. And also is a Twilight, meaning you get to flip extra events. And also has Studious, so you gain AT. And Showdowns cost 0 and so on and so forth. She is currently under a restraining order to stay more than 50 cards away from Twilight Sparkle Faithful Student.
I remember watching the mirror matches of this at your regional stream. And it was just two people gaining AT really fast, and then one of them was like, and here's my hand. Okay, you win.
Yep.
I have seen this fire on turn 2.
That is
If you get a god hand, yep, this could very easily fire on turn 2.
that is some ridiculous magical happy Christmas time.
It happens.
You also had to be lucky with your draws.
Oh, you did.
But-
Yeah, that was pure blind faith going into it, but I've seen it happen. It did fire much more consistently by turn 3 or 4. By turn 4, if you had a decent opening hand, you were basically guaranteed to get it.
Yeah, if you have the cards, you just go on for.
So Vapor Trail might be okay if she was only allowed to bring a friend into a face-off. But this is still a little bit dangerous because then you can start doing Mod Mac things. You could also exhaust her to get the other friend or character involved in the face-off, and that's maybe okay. But there's ways to ready cards, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, and I was about to say, if we're in a format where she could potentially violate the restraining order, you've got Weather Leader and potentially something like Rainbow Shine.
Yeah. I mean, the issue you run into is if you have her exhaust, again, like we said, there's ways that you can ready, even if she only functions once per turn on a face-off, that's all that Mod Mac needs is one face-off. So that's not good enough.
Right.
Ivory?
I mean,
Do we really have to talk about this one?
technically yes, but I don't think she needs much introduction. Ara has written here that she is a complete barn, houses not being big enough, with a positive feedback loop. Anyway, Diligent 2, very strong. Remove a +1 power counter from this card to put a +1 power counter on one of your friends. You might do that, or you could just have a insanely high-powered main who happens to enjoy farming.
I think I like that idea better.
Yeah, I mean, I did it sometimes. There was
Sure.
a princess. There was princess for a night. Flip extra cards, but more often than not, you're gonna see this thing parked at a problem with like 12 power and like 3 troublemakers face down. It's just not. It's not good. Initially, this was removed from only core. I believe they were under the impression that there were plenty of forced movement to keep her more in check and harmony, but it turned out that there wasn't, and so now she is at home on the moon.
There's just something so jarring about seeing Diligent 2 on a main character template.
This thing
Terrible.
still walks all over limited formats quite easily.
Yeah.
If you see any EO limited events, you'll find people who are trying to pull orange cards just so they can run this.
No, you want the it's the blue orange and Granny Smith and all of the just
Yeah.
Getting
Three-
PTSD just thinking about that.
3 T-Rex Reigns of Terror, a few Orchard Blossoms, maybe a bulk if you were lucky enough to get one of them. Ugh.
I mean, I don't actually know what you could do to this. I mean, lowering it to Diligent 1 still seems too strong because it's still on a main. And you can still move it to other characters, and
Now,
I think
I don't think she is redeemable on her own. I think the meta has to adapt to her rather than the other way around.
I think if I was going to try to redeem this card, I would probably change the counters from power counters to something that basically just gave her that much competitive inside of a face-off. But then you have to ask the question, well then what purpose does Rainbow Dash Ambassador Loyalty serve? I mean, you get to move it for free by exhausting it, but I don't know. It's just we
Right.
don't print cards that let you put power counters on characters very easily.
All right, or maybe you'd have to do something like change the counter so that they didn't count in a face-off. It's
Kind of
You
useless.
Make them
Weird.
Apple counters, Pages says.
Rec counters.
Buy some Apple counters.
Man, Cheese, you're just getting everything that's right up your alley. Go ahead, walk us down memory lane.
You want to talk about F-Stop?
Well, we kind of foreshadowed it a little bit about getting events back.
I'm amazed that this stuck
Yeah.
around for as long as it did.
Yeah, this card was super undervalued in the Premier Carolina Knights era. But getting your cards back for 1 AT once a turn is pretty good. And essentially, this allowed control decks to just be toolbox and say, I only need one copy of every card because I can just play it as much as I want. Unless it was like a super important card. But and basically when you're fighting or going up against this, you're just facing the same whatever card stopping you from making progress is just the same thing every turn. Now, what could you do to fix this? It's kind of hard. You'd have to have some kind of cost that you can't. That's not just like AT. It's not just something that constantly recurs. It would basically have to be permanently getting rid of some resource. Like basically, you'd have to be banishing something. Either banish the card you played. Oh, that's really hard. So you'd have to like banish something else.
Like remove another card from your, banish another card from your hand, or banish another card from your discard pile, or something that you just can't keep doing.
Yeah. Even that though, like from the discard pile, like you can still do like there's stuff in your discard pile you're fine getting rid of.
Your other friends.
I mean,
New friends.
I think the closest analog we can get to what a fixed f-stop would look like is the Ultra Rare Moon Dancer. You choose a card in your discard pile. You can play that card until the end of the turn. If you do, it's banished forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way
Right.
you'd have to word it to banish the card that you actually play.
Right, it's much more limited in the number of shots you can get out of an event. Because, like, even if you do the hand or discard thing, yeah, that doesn't limit it to 6 shots.
No. Also obligatory, there's ways to ready your characters and blah, 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 blah.
He was a bad pony. And
He was a terrible pony.
I don't think we might have came up with something, but I don't think we ever actually built a deck that relied on untapping him. I think every time we looked at that, we figured out better ways. Generally, I think it always devolved to Trenderhoof.
Yeah.
who was also a bad pony.
Who's
it's just
still a bad pony.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much easier to make a friend leave play than it is to ready a friend.
Yeah, and I think, like, Trenderhoof doesn't even care if it was a token, so it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see. What do we got next here?
You really have lined these up in order perfectly, Aura.
This is literally the ban order. Like, this is the ban order basically chronologically.
Even my next one, it's great.
I know. It's really kind of amusing.
Alright, I mean, I almost wish the next two were swapped, but anyway. Main 6 party planners, when you play this card, it steals all your opponent's stuff, all their friends, just all of them.
But only until the end of the score phase. I mean, that's not bad.
That doesn't matter. You know, let me tell you why that doesn't matter.
Tell me why.
Tell
Because
you the
I've
story
got
of a card.
Shoeshine, the Destroyer of Worlds. Because I've got Soren, Eater of Pies. I've got
The hardest of parties.
Amusement Factory, the hardest of parties. Just, I could go on and on and on and on and on. Like, there's just too much
Party
stuff.
Hard is on or what was it called? Party Hard?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Party
Yeah.
Hard.
Is on a whole nother level.
That
Right, like-
interaction was so bad.
Right, like, all of that stuff is bad, and then there's Party Hard that's just like, Nah,
You just concede. Like, there's
I'm gonna-
nothing you can do to come back from that.
I'm going to take that and turn it up to 12.
We had so much discussion and wrote what felt like a novel about that particular interaction and why this was such a problem.
Right. And so
Where-
really, the fundamental problem here is that Main Six Party Planners is really, really sad to see all of its newfound friends go away under their own power, so instead it just yeets them all itself to prevent the sadness. Like, it took... Yeah, to Grandpa's point, we spilled lots of ink
I
over
can't
this.
have them. Nobody can.
Yeah.
Kind of.
There was a lot of playtest debate about this card.
There was a lot of playtest debate about this card, and almost none of that playtest debate revolved around the thing that really pushed it over the edge, which was Party Hard. It was
Yeah.
mostly about Sorin, and it was like, yeah, but you can rebuild a board state. People just won't overcommit if this card is in the meta. And then it's like, oh, let's also take away all your options for rebuilding.
Yeah.
And so it had to go away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if people had looked into the Party Hard interaction more during playtesting, it would never have been printed.
I remember Ara being so angry at this card being printed that he spite voted it like a 2 or a 2.5.
I
on-
remember
got-
he gave it a 3.
It got a 0.
No, you gave it a 3. I very distinctly remember that happening.
Nope, it was a 0. It
No,
averaged out
wait.
to a 3 after you told me I needed to not do that. Because it's a 6 or a 0. And there is no in between.
6 if it's legal, 0 if it's not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you can't actually use it. Using it, it's actively harmful because you're just disqualified.
You get a you get a DQ. It's fine. So it ended up being right. Just had to look like 2 years into the future.
Fair enough. Okay, so set the stage for the next bands we're going to talk about here. Ara.
Hold on, we're not done yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah,
Like-
how fix it?
You can't. All you can really do here is limit the quantity or quality somehow. Like, you can only steal so many friends, or their total action token value can only be so much, or something like that, because you just can't let this take everything. But even then, stealing is still really powerful, like really powerful. The only real saving grace here is that this card is when you play and not as this card enters play, or when you
Win.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about Portal, at least, but that's small consolation.
There was a commonly suggested errata in the community to this card, which was to add the line, "Those friends can't leave play this turn." Now, logistically speaking, there's no way to really fix this particular card to do that, but yeah, that kind of works.
Might have been okay.
There's still ways around that. If you cause those friends to be frightened, they become new cards, and then they can leave play again. I mean, it gets very expensive, but you could still end up doing things with it.
Then they would just go back to your opponent, then, wouldn't they?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
That is a possibility, I suppose. All right. So here on out, Commentary is Magic took over organized play. Now, generally, when we have felt it necessary to remove a card from the meta, the announcement contains a fairly detailed justification for why we thought it was necessary to remove the card. So from here on out, we're going to focus more on possible reformations rather than analyzing the ban in the first place.
All right.
Now, if you recall, I said stealing stuff was really good.
Yeah, but 5AT is too expensive. Let's do it for 1. And let's affect any friend we want anywhere, and let's have it be on enters play.
Sounds good.
No.
Sounds good. Print it.
No, it's real dumb. Basically was the foundation behind an entire deck. The basic rule here is don't get into drinking contests with Berry Punch, because even if she's downing Everclear and you're drinking water, she's still better at it than you. And she'll continue to remind you until you lose. How do you redeem this? Well, 1 AT steal a friend is not okay. So this has to cost more.
We
2
have
AT,
2 AT, yeah.
2 AT steal a friend restrictionless on location on enters play is also not okay. Change it to when you play.
Maybe.
We already have
Maybe?
that card.
Yeah, we do, but he is location restricted.
Yeah.
Hoops can only grab something where he is. Now, he has a nice chaos effect to boot, but he also has a 4 Rex, so you can't drop this early.
Right.
Unless you're playing Skystar.
Right. This sucker, I'll play this off Skystar with Buckball. Or worse, off of Party Cannoneer. Your things are my things.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is really just to kind of bring it more in line with what we saw as far as other temporary steal effects. Make it cost more, make it have restrictions.
Now, see, the best part about this is I remember during the run-up to the launch of Defenders, Princess Rob posted a altered version of this that literally had the main 6 text.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone kind of looked at it and was like, that seems like a really good card. You should maybe not print that card. I think he may have had to post the corrected version before anyone really realized.
No, I think that was Bugle who was messing around. This was Bugle spoiling it on Cloud Chaser and Flitter, and it was like an April Fool's thing.
It was April 1st, yeah. Yeah. That was funny.
That was funny. All right. Ivory?
I always forget this card even exists because it doesn't anymore. Exact Duplicate, My Little Cloney. When you play this card, put a token copy of each of your token friends into play. This card, no one played this with that when it was legal because it was basically just only used in combo. It's probably needs to be limited to 1 copy of 1 token friend in some way, but even then, there's still combos that could be done with it, so I think this card's probably irredeemable.
Right, so if you were sitting here going, well, it's fine, just only make 1 copy per name of a card, right? That's fine, right? Right?
No.
Well, no, it's not.
Turns out you don't actually need that many friends to make this thing do degenerate stuff. A single AT generator and a copy of Fluttershy backup vocals is basically it.
So, if you're going to redeem this, you've got to really squeeze it down to the point where, why would you play this?
I mean, yeah, this doesn't really have much use outside of that.
Yeah. I think a lot of the cards in EO Block actually suffered from the fact that people thought, or designers thought, that color entry was going to be much harder than it actually was. Cough, cough, singing barrel, cough. And as a result, when people were there in playtesting, the decks that tried to run Exact Duplicate were using the Figment generating or the Critter generating cards, and like those were fine. That was kind of a cool aggressive style, but no. Then you had Dip in the Pool, which also got added 2 weeks before the set went out, and it was like, it's kind of a problem. You sure you want to do it? Yeah, it's fine. It wasn't fine.
Narrator, it wasn't fine.
It was not fine. All right, Cheese. It's your calling card.
Portal.
Literally is Cheese's calling card.
Burp. Yeah. So, Interdimensional Portal basically makes it really difficult to print any card that says when this card enters play. And so the options here for fixing this are potentially changing when the card comes back into play, or when you can actually play the card. Potentially increasing cost, but a 3 AT portal sounds terrible.
I mean, this is also in purple. That's just like extra resource generation. You got it.
3 is still asking a lot. It's just a really hard, like, it's the option of how powerful are your interplay abilities versus how much do you want to be able to flicker things, or how easily do you want to be able to flicker things. And there's just a trade-off there. And I think right now we just have a ton of when this card enters play. So you'd have to pretty heavily restrict Portal.
Yeah, because we've also got Luna's Future, which of course returns the friend. I think at the end of the turn, or at the it's at the end of the turn.
And its main phase.
Right. But it's also a multi-modal card, and so you could maybe see printing a portal type effect at main phase that did nothing else, but still.
So Anway
You
points
could.
out the fact that this card is technically not currently banned, but
Yeah,
it
it's
was.
It was in core. Not in Harmony, just because Harmony is so crazy anyway.
Right. Like, what's another gallon of gas in the fire that is Harmony?
Yeah. Yeah, so really talking here about if it was reintroduced to core.
Right.
That kind of ability.
Right. It is worth noting that Ponyhead does know about some of the old formats as they stood at the time. So if you wanted to go re-experience Core 2.0, you're not allowed to have this. Sorry.
Are we really already on Core 3.0?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I guess that's true.
Aura?
One would appreciate a cup of tea.
What?
Implications here. Old money, particularly socialite. So I think this is another one where it got removed twice. Basically, when you look at the combination of stuff that this does, the Meticulous 2 helps with card filtering, and you've got unconditional, guaranteed banishment of basically whatever you want. Oh, and by the way, it also works with Portal. You know, just for that extra icing on top. And yeah, sure, it costs 4. That's steep the first time. The second one doesn't cost 4. It costs less than 4.
Yep.
And toning her, like reintroducing her to society, you have to take something away here. You gotta remove their Meticulous, maybe changing it to on play, maybe restricting what kind of thing it can hit, not being able to hit all 3 of the friend, resource, or troublemaker, just perhaps 1. Maybe that would be enough, or maybe it would take more than 1 of those even to let her back out. But let's face it, though, she's basically just on house arrest, and she is very thoroughly enjoying the inside of her mansion.
If you change this, removing the Meticulous, and made it only when you play, I would still consider running it in core.
This is such a good card.
Right.
Yeah, and Pages points out, why does she have Meticulous too? I don't know. No one knows. No one knows why this card has Meticulous too. There's no reason for it.
Because it costs so much. You had to make up for that 4 cost and only 2 power.
Or something.
Yep.
That was probably the logic being used, but that doesn't really stand, as we have seen.
Not anymore, it doesn't.
All right, so how about one of the longest print to ban timelines?
Is this one me?
No, this one's me.
Oh, even better.
boots and pants and boots and pants and boots and pants and boots and pants.
You want to talk about constraining design space? This is your textbook case. There's nothing another pink main can do to really hold a candle to this if that main is supposed to be built around repeatable value. Silverstream, no.
Just no.
Just
Yeah.
like you can't really sit here and say that no other pink main would ever end up seeing played, but you can get pretty close to it. People tried things with Lyra and found some success, but that was more when it was in core specifically, and because DJ isn't legal there. But this is just dumb. Just so dumb. Every turn, a card, one of the easiest flip conditions you've had, the ability to ready so you can still end up playing aggro games with it if you want to. I would struggle to think of a combo deck that was in a format where DJ was legal that wasn't running DJ as the main, regardless of whether or not you were pink. Like Vapor Trail, I guess.
Right, but redeeming her, though.
Repeatable card draw like this is just flat out too good. You want to take a look at an example of how you redeem this? You make the flip condition much harder, and you make the card draw conditional. And you print Silverstream, and you make it an ultra rare.
Yeah, I think Silverstream is basically the redeemed version of this, isn't she?
As close as we're going to get.
It's a redeemed version. Like there's variations on the theme, but at that point you have to stop and ask: is it really worth making another pink main that does basically the same thing?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So I think those are the two big things that you end up fixing here. If you're going to have a main that's going to be built around something as powerful as either AT generation or card draw, it needs to have a flip condition that is non-trivial, and it needs to be conditional. And that's like your basic bare bones framework for designing that card. So, all right, Ivory, take the next one.
All right, let's talk about the source of all of those bad purple Luna mains.
The big bad moon herself. So this one, I remember people were calling for bans even back in like Canterlot Nights. So this one was a pretty long time coming as well. And I actually don't think there's much you can really do to redeem this one other than remove the all players discard their hand and draw 3 cards apart from the ability. And that just makes it a double-sided yellow Parasprite that happens to be an epic.
Well, it's a villain, admittedly, but...
Well, villain, epic. Sure. But, I mean, what do you guys think? I'm not sure what else you could really do than that without making the card basically useless.
I mean, repeatedly hit her with the rainbow laser. That's about all I got.
Yeah, another one of those things where I think the design was just way too pushed, and you can't really find an analog that isn't going to dramatically change the card's effect.
So I'd say straight to the moon, but
She is the
already there.
moon.
yeah.
Her face is right there.
Yeah.
And this got even worse with Pinky Sense, so it turned out that she was design constraining too, so goodbye, good riddance.
Yep.
Rip.
Rip.
Literally in the case of that one card that Cheese has, but
Lol.
you'll have to ask to see that at a future in-person convention.
Yes.
Which event did that happen at again?
The first real Gen Con. 2014.
I haven't played Flipper Rip in a while.
Ari yells at me when I play it.
I love that game.
Yeah. Whatever, as long as you're not doing it with Leaves and Legends cards. Let's see, my turn, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this little smile here. Yeah, we got rid of the moon, let's get rid of the sun. It's only fair. So this is another card that was one of the Commentary is Magic powered bans, and I think we gave a fairly good justification for why this was problematic. And unfortunately, like, it boils down to she's just too good. To try to rein her back in, there's a couple of obvious answers here. The first one is maybe slapping Unique, because that way you can only get, what was it, 4 action tokens value out of one of these things? Like, one of these is still really good. It just means that you can't go, like, full ham and get 2 or 3 of them out and just be like, yeah, my stuff just doesn't stay at home, ever. But failing that, you might need to just up this to once per turn, or maybe just 1 character. Like, I think that would tune her back far enough that she wasn't just ludicrous value. She's still going to be an incredibly good card, especially if you're dealing with Neon Bambi. Just the ability to keep him up at a problem is invaluable. So, maybe if you probably had to do both of those things, give her Unique and say 1 character rather than, or 1 problem. And I guess that ends up being like a once a turn clause.
Yeah, I think that would probably. I think both of those would be necessary, personally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would still be a good card that you would
Oh, yeah.
see in a lot of yellow decks, even with those restrictions.
Oh, yeah. I just find it amusing that the Sun Princess needs reforming.
Lol.
Yeah.
Especially when she goes very well with the next one.
Yep. Who is actually an example of how a card can be redeemed. Growing Confidence. Stunning Wonder. Stunning Confidence.
Growing Wonder.
Yes.
So we've successfully fired the Rainbow Laser at Growing Confidence. And made Stunning Wonder.
Yeah.
Already fixed.
Which I believe was the first time? Is that what it was? Or was it Exhaust?
It was first time,
Okay.
Yeah.
which I like better, personally.
Yep.
Yeah, basically it's just a rate limit.
Yeah. Just keep it in check. How about another success story?
Well, you say success story, so we successfully,
It's not really redeemed, is it?
well, less reformed, I guess, and more, like, reined in, I guess, to Father of Monsters. And the change there was that little bit of text that says immediate gets changed to main phase.
Suddenly is a lot more fair.
Yeah, he can't just be like, I'm not having fun here, I'm out.
Yeet!
Yeep.
And thankfully, that's all we have to worry about right now for bans, other than Selena, who I guess we didn't put on here.
Yeah, I was like, where's Selena?
Not technically banned yet.
Not technically banned yet. But her day
There's
will
also the Nyx main that we haven't talked about yet.
Shh.
come. Yeah,
Spoilers.
It's coming out pre-banned.
Banned even before it's printed.
I'm gonna steal Ara's machine that
it's-
has all the tools on it and just make a Nyx main and post it without telling him.
it's already banned. Sorry.
I feel like Selena, without really going super long into depth because we're already running over time, I feel like Selena would be a similar issue to Old Money, where it's just like every part of this card is dumb.
Like, it's all wrong, just throw the whole thing away and start over.
Kind of. Jace the Mind Sculptor was banned for a reason. And that thing came down on turn
Was it
4,
really?
not turn 1. Yes! Yes, it was.
He's been banned for a long time.
He got redeemed. By redeemed,
Ish.
I mean he got unbanned.
Because someone thought it was a good idea.
Alright.
Yeah, but poor Selena.
Oh well.
Just too much.
Alright, Aura, you know what time it is?
It's getting awful close to online con time again, isn't it? Because we
Yep.
had one of those. What about 2-3 weeks ago?
Yep, it is shameless plug time, so go ahead.
It's shameless plug time. All right, so those of you who have been paying attention to the convention scene have heard that BabsCon is already going to defer for another year. And it seems only appropriate to, at some point, hold a online con 1-year Plague Anniversary Memorial Tournament.
Rip.
But that's a little bit far out, so I figure we should probably try to split the difference here and put an online con, I don't know, around the end of February. So keep an eye out for the signups for that. You will, of course, see them in the usual places, Discord, Reddit, and we'll undoubtedly talk about them here again. We're looking at Sealed and Core this time, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because the previous online con that coincided with Vancouver Pony Expo was Draft and Harmony. So, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I believe we've got that tentatively scheduled for February 27th and 28th.
So be on the lookout for those signups.
Uh-huh.
With that being said, I think it will about wrap up our discussion on these band cards for today.
Yay.
We would like to give a big shout out to all our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. If you aren't currently a patron but you enjoy what we do, please consider donating. Doing so does enable us to continue making content like this and lets you earn some great perks as a bonus. If you have comments or questions you'd like to send our way, feel free to reach out to us through Facebook, Twitter, or email. And if you're a patron, you can also chat live with us on Slack any day, anytime. Finally, if you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel linked just below the stream. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic. I am, as always, Grand Paws.
Big cheese.
Arcat and...
The Nyx main, Ivory Starlight.
Oh, sure, I was going to play it straight and not say Rainbow Shine. But, no, you had to go and break everything. Yeah.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.